All right, so this is a beginner's guide to how to build your Descendant in the First Descendant game for newer players. This is going to be all you need to know to get started and start to build your characters in very unique ways. We'll start from the basic main components and then move on to the peripheral things that impact your build. So starting, we'll go into the Descendant modules, and modules are literally everything you need in order to have these really creative builds that you see online. So there are 12 slots here, two of which are occupied by very specific mods that cannot be assigned to anything other than these types of mods. That being the top one, Transcendent mods, and these are specialized mods that are specific to each Descendant. They don't translate from Descendant to Descendant, and you have to unlock them in very specific ways. They will always be assigned to this section. For the one below it, that is technically a sub-attack module slot. However, later in the game, you will be able to unlock long-distance maneuvering, multi-maneuvering, and mid-air maneuvering, which enhance your grapple. For the other 10 slots, they are completely interchangeable as long as they are different assignments. So what I mean by that is the assignment for this HP amplification, it is an HP mod. Now, there are some mods that are blank, and if they're blank, it doesn't matter if it increases your HP. You can also add it to your build, but you can only have one of each assignment on your build. So if I have another HP mod that I want to use, I cannot add it to my build unless I replace this one. So this entire system is based on trade-offs in order to make your creative builds. So that's one thing to consider. The module socket type is the thing up here at the top. So you see these different symbols. This one is Silion. This one right here is Rutile, and so on and so forth, right? So with these, you see some of them are green. This one is white. The reason why these are green is because if you move over here to the right, you have module capacity. So the capacity, module capacity is basically how much space you have in order to work on your build. For a newer Descendant that you just unlock, you will not have any of these green except for 2 and 4 for ultimates. And those are the base ones. And with those, it cuts your capacity cost in half. So you'll see when you hover over these, you have enhancement level 10. That means I enhanced it all the way over here on the orange. You can enhance each module by going over to Silion, and I'll show you that in a second. But you have the capacity cost. As you enhance, you do increase the capacity cost, how much it costs for you to assign this to your Descendant. And then you have the module, your module type, and then the module class, because you also have modules for guns. So this is the same thing for guns. The things to note, when you increase your module enhancement level for your base modules, it will overall increase the cost. Except for Transcendence, these start really high, and as you increase your enhancement level, it doesn't actually change the abilities of the module. So for all of the other ones, you'll start with 1, but then you'll see the max HP increase will be lower as well. But as you increase, your max HP increases, your buffs increase, but it also costs more. For Ambushed or any of these Transcendent mods, it doesn't actually change the ability at all. It doesn't increase it at all, but it does lower the cost of placing the mod here. For the sub-attack one, it will start at 0, and it increases the amount of additional capacity that you have on your mod. So it's really important to, first and foremost, if you have a Transcendent mod, I would upgrade that first so that it costs the least amount, though they do cost more to upgrade. And then also upgrade your sub attack slot here or your grapple attack slot here, because it also increases your overall module capacity, which allows you to have more mods on your Descendant earlier in the game. So how do you get higher capacity aside from that, right? Or how do you maximize your capacity? First, you go to module additional settings, and you'll have 2 options here. The first one being assign a module's socket type, and that I will go over in a second. The second one being max capacity up. So there are 2 items in the game that you want to pay attention to: crystallization catalyst and the energy activators. So the energy activators are used to increase your capacity your max capacity up that we just saw, and then your crystallization catalyst are used to actually assign the socket types, and that's why some of these are green. So if I remove this, you'll see that this has a C by it and then a blank. So if I wanted to add a module to that section, and it was, say, this one, technician, you see there's an M, it would cost, let me remove this, it would cost 16, right? Because it just is blank. However, if I assign one that actually has a cerulean, then it will be cut in half. So it always is cut in half if it is aligned to the assignment type. As I mentioned before, some of them don't have the little square, and that's because when you get the descendant, whether it's ultimate or regular, that descendant comes with very specific slots that are already assigned. So if I try to assign anything that is not this Xantic, which is the X here, so say I wanted to do something, say I wanted to do this cerulean. You see it's already lighting up red, and that means I'm going to have a penalty. So now it's actually increased the cost for me to actually have that assigned. I don't recommend this. And the way to avoid that is for these that are already pre-assigned, you have to reassign them to different ones. But for any ones that weren't assigned to begin with, you will have the blank, so you won't get penalized for that, but you won't get any increase. So that's one thing to note. When you go into module assignments, you go to max capacity up, and that's where you use an energy activator in order to increase that. And you have to work through actually grinding a bunch of pieces in order to build those, but that's how you do that. For module assignment type, exit without saving, these are all of the assigned slots that I have done so far, right? So every time you get your descendant to level 40, you will be able to assign a module slot. So you would click on any of these, and then you could pick which one you want to assign, and then you would apply the socket type. And now this would have an X and this kind of R looking symbol. One thing to note, when you do that, every time you assign it, your descendant will go back to level 1, and you will have to re-level them all the way up in order to reassign, or in order to just get your descendant to the strongest possible version of itself within that build. So that is how mods work. Now, when you have all of these assigned, you'll see the applied values on the side here on the left here. These are all of the boosts based on the mods that I have assigned, right? So critical hit damage is boosted by 207 because I have the boost here for critical hit damage, boost here for critical hit damage, and boost here. So that is how they add up, and you'll have all of the values here, so you're aware of what implications your mods have on your descendant. Moving on. The secondary thing you want to consider based on your build is your reactor, right? Your reactor, and that's up here in the right corner. When you click in, your reactors have different implications. So depending on which reactors you choose, whether they're purple or blue, purple or gold in the end game, for purple ones, you will notice that there are a couple things that improve your overall build. First, the optimization condition, right? If you have a optimization condition for here, it says having a sniper rifle weapon class equipped. What this means is that you have 3 gun slots, and if you have a sniper rifle in any of those 3 gun slots, then you will get a boost in 140% of your skill power. So basically just a 40% boost on top of your base skill power. If you don't have that, then you aren't penalized. I know it says it looks red and it looks like it's a drop. Basically, you just have your base skill power from your normal build, so you're losing out on that 40%. But for gold, it will be 60%. All right, but I'll go over the differences in a sec here. And for gold, you see the sniper rifle also, but it says group mounted. So what that means, again, for the purple, it says weapon class equipped. For the gold, it says group mounted. For mounting means you have to have the weapon in your hand at the time in order to get that 160% boost, right? And that is something that's going to be really important. So if you're in game and you switch your gun to something that's not a sniper, then you will lose that boost instantly, right? So if you notice that your power is going down, that's probably what's happening. The second level here, by the way, one last thing to note about optimization conditions, they did update the game recently to allow you to change the optimization condition. So now you can add additional levels up to 3. So if I have a sniper rifle, but I also consistently use a scout rifle or maybe a machine gun, I can build that into my build. Now, again, all of these things that I'm mentioning require additional grinding of materials in order to actually put that into the game. And that will be covered in a different video. That's not what this is about. So, the second layer here is skill power boost. You'll notice that none of these are checked. The reason why it's not checked is because my character here is an electric and fusion type. So the skill power boost ratio on all of the reactors will be based on 2 concepts. One is the elemental ability of the descendants, so this would be toxic, and the actual function of their abilities. So in order for me to benefit from this, my character would have to be toxic and my abilities would have to be tech based. Not all of them, just at least one, in order for this boost to be active. And that boost will only be active for that ability to be triggered. For reference, my character is an electric fusion type, and I know that because when you go into the abilities, go back to the Descendant menu, and you go into the abilities and I hover over my abilities, you'll see electric and fusion. This is electric and dimension. Electric and fusion, electric and fusion. All right, so that's how you know this is a fusion-based character for most of my abilities, except for my camouflage, which is dimension. All right, so when I hover over my abilities here, and this is my actual reactor, you'll see all of these things are checked. One, because it says scout rifle weapon group mounted, and I currently have the Blue Beetle, which is a scout rifle in my hand, so I do get that boost. For skill power ratio, I am an electric character and I do have fusion abilities. So I get a 0.2 or 20% boost in my electric skill power as well as my fusion skill power. And the last layer here is the skill power when equipped at the very bottom. That is going to show you the actual boost of all of the abilities above it, right? So this is going to be the actual implication on your character for each of the abilities. So you see my first ability, second ability, third ability, fourth ability. This is where their power, their base power will be when I get all of those conditions and boost. And the very bottom are the random rolls. So when you get reactors and you pick them up, you'll have random rolls on the bottom. The bottom will show you what kind of boost you have. And these can be anything from your fusion, your electric, or any of your abilities to skill critical hit rate, skill critical hit damage, skill effect range, cooldown, duration, and you can find that if you go into the menu down at the bottom. You'll see exclude junk filter, the filters. You can find all of the details around what potential drops you have here. You can just scroll down here and you'll see skill cost, skill cooldown, duration up, effect range. This is also a filtering system that allows you to auto filter in case you want to auto dismantle. That way it's easier for you to only pay attention to the ones that you want to keep when you're grinding. This is something that's a little bit more enhanced, so it's not a base level thing or beginner level thing, so we won't dive too deep into it. But if you want to know which potential roles you can get, they're right here. One thing to note about reactors with the recent update, you will no longer get an electric reactor that randomly drops a skill power boost of, say, toxic or something, because that will never be relevant to that character. So now each reactor can only have a random assignment of the elemental type that the reactor is. And that is not automatic. That is just one of the random roles that you can potentially have in the bottom, and all of the other ones are removed. So that is reactors. Make sure you get a good reactor depending on what build you want. So if your build requires cooldown, maybe go for more cooldown. If you want to go for power, then you focus on critical hit damage. If you want to go for a critical hit rate, so on and so forth. Now, components. Components are another really integral part of your build because depending on which components you have, you can have additional set bonuses. So you'll see for the Slayer set here that I'm using for my build, I have a set bonus of 2 if you have 2 of these assigned. So you see 1, 2, 3, 4. I have all 4 of my slots assigned to Slayer. Then you will get a general rounds capacity boost. But if you have all 4 of them assigned, then you get rounds per magazine boost. You get a hit on skill cost, but you have a 26% boost in skill power, right? So I'm going for a max skill power build on this one. So that's why I'm going with this Slayer set. And each of the sets are found in very specific areas and unlocked by doing very specific tasks, whether that's killing a boss or doing a very specific type of mission. But yes, so with components, you want to pay attention to a number of things, not just the set bonus, but also the actual boost to your base stats. So you'll see that this Slayer set has a base boost, that white section of defense. So my defense is boosted. And the random rolls are also assigned very specifically here. So I want to be very particular. The actual white section here, defense, does change based on which component you choose. So you see this one is max shield. This one is max HP. So depending on what type of build you want to build, you want to pay attention to what boost you're getting. So if you need a bunch of HP for some reason, then you want to focus on more of the HP based ones. You'll also notice that on the random rolls, this one also has max HP. So for the random rolls, each of these is assigned one base stat that it can possibly roll. What I mean by that is this one, for the top section of auxiliary power, it can only roll max HP. For this, the sensor can only roll max MP. You'll never get a max HP on the random rolls. I'm not talking about the white section. I'm talking about right here, the blue and yellow section. For the random rolls, you will never be able to get max HP on the sensors. It's only MP. So you'll have HP, you'll have MP, you'll have defense, and you will have shield. Those are the ways that they drop for the random rolls. And then all of the other ones are also assigned. So you can also only have a very specific type of roll for some of the other ones on each one, but I'm not going to go into all of that. I just wanted to clarify in case you were trying to get max HP random rolls on all of them, you're wasting your time. That can only drop on the power, MP on the sensor, defense on the memory, and shield on the processor. So all of the other ones again do change. So if I wanted to max HP, I could get a power, a auxiliary power that has a white section, so the base of the power would be HP, and I would hope for a random drop of max HP, which would give me a double, right? And then you can kind of mix and match. If you don't necessarily need the set bonus and you're just going for base stats, so again, maybe your build requires a lot of defense, then you can just mix and match based on the ones you need. So you would go defense here, and then you would look for one that has this one has defense as well. So you would go for those types of builds, but that also adjusts what your build ends up being and how it ends up impacting, right? So you want to focus on set bonuses, and you want to focus on what roles are required for your specific build. The last piece that I'll talk about is the guns, right? Depending on which guns you have, if you have purple guns, and mostly for this game, you'll really start to, especially in endgame, you'll really start relying on the gold guns. And all of these gold guns have very specific unique abilities that increase or potentially decrease your character's effectiveness. You'll notice that for this build, this gun right here, the Blue Beetle, is really important, and you want to pay attention to what unique abilities each gun provides. They don't necessarily decrease your effectiveness, but that you could be losing out on a potential impact on your overall build. For this one, you'll see that whenever I'm using a fusion skill, and as we discussed before, this character is an electric fusion base. A lot of my abilities are fusion, so I'm going to be using fusion skills a lot. You will get the unique ability Arcane Energy. For Arcane Energy, this increases my skill critical hit rate at 100%, by 115%, right? So this trigger rate, it will always trigger every time I use a skill, and it will create a duration of 10 seconds. So as long as I continue to use skills, then I will get this boost. So you want to consider what kind of build you're going for and what gun can potentially help you, right? There's some guns that help you based on their boost in skill power, based on this one based on the boost in skill critical hit rates. Some of them are based in firearm attack. So you can, and some of them just have really cool effects that create AoE damage. So you want to focus on that. Not every character will have a gun that can optimize their, skill power and things like that, but some of them do. So this is the last component that I want to address when it comes to the totality of a build. So when you think about the breakdown of this build, you would have the Blue Beetle, which increases my skill critical hit rate. And because of that, I'm able to then change my build slightly and not having to add too much addition to my skill critical hit rate, because I'm already getting a nice boost to that, right? And that allows me to change how I build my mods and which mods I have, because we only have certain slots. And then I add components that help me boost my specific abilities, and then a reactor that helps close out the entire thing. So if you are a new player, this is really what you need to know and how you need to break down building and tackling the building of your character in order to really have fun with some of these creative builds and understand that. Hopefully that makes sense. And the last thing I'll show you is I'll head over to Silion, which is the person that you will need to go to if you wanted to enhance your modules. So I did mention enhancing your modules, and you go over to this section right here. So you land in here. If you go all the way over here to the module master Silion, which is where we're going now, you will go over to him, and then you talk, and then you can do a number of things. Enhance module is what you would do if you wanted to enhance, and then you can click on that and increase their capacity. It will cost Kuiper and gold, just something to note, but that is the last thing. So hopefully this helped. Hopefully it wasn't too tedious to get through, but I think it's very important for newer players to just kind of understand builds. Let me know in the comments if there's any questions you have, if there's anything that you would like as a follow-up. What is the next step? This is part one rather, of a series of videos for beginners that I'm going to be doing to break down different aspects of this game. And then I wanted to start with just building out your Descendants. Again, building out your guns is going to be extremely similar as far as the module assignment types and capacity ups, all of that fun stuff. Again, do all of the things that you're supposed to do. Follow, like, subscribe, share, comment. See you on the next one.